We just saw the greatest wild card weekend in the history of the NFL, and we're going to talk all about it right here on Carving Up Live. Going to start, obviously, with the champs going down yesterday. The Philadelphia Eagles losing the 49ers. Is Kyle Shanahan the best coach in the NFL? And as for Philly, A.J. Brown, get your behind out of there. Nick Sirianni, get your behind out of there. Kevin Patillo, get out of here. Talk about Philadelphia in just a second. Caleb Williams, one of the most generationally gifted quarterbacks we've ever seen. You saw that against the Green Bay Packers. Is Matt LaFleur's job in danger for Green Bay? Also going to talk about Josh Allen, his first signature playoff win. Yes, you heard me say that correctly. I'll explain that in just a moment, why the Jags are here to stay. Also get into Matthew Stafford game-winning drive to beat the Carolina Panthers. Patriots looked phenomenal in their win over the Chargers. Justin Herbert came apart again in a playoff game. Shocker. Indiana dominated Oregon in their college football playoff win. And, of course, predictions for Steelers versus Texans. I'm kind of nervous tonight. I'm a Steelers fan. Very, very nervous tonight. We've got an absolutely loaded episode of Carving Up Live. So let's start the beat, baby. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Twitch, Facebook, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver. It is fantastic to be with you guys on this Friday, or this Monday, rather. Is this the greatest wild card weekend that we've ever seen in the history of the NFL? As I said there in the open, we had not one, not two, not three, 4 games come down to the final 2 minutes, which I think is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like it in the history of the NFL. Just unbelievable stuff. We're going to talk about all the games. Of course, this is all under the pretext of my extreme level of nervousness for tonight's game, featuring my Steelers going, or not going anywhere. We're at home in Acrisure Stadium taking on the Houston Texans. I'll predict that game again later at the end of today's show. I'm nervous. I was able to sleep last night. Part of it was the craziness of Wild Card Weekend. Part of it is, man, I'm either going to have to apologize to Aaron Rodgers or rip Mike Tomlin to shreds, and I'm not sure which one I want to do. I don't know. For the long-term health of the show, for the Steelers, those might be 2 different options, 2 different questions, but we've got a ton to talk about on today's show. Getting lead off, obviously, with the Philadelphia Eagles going down yesterday. Got Justin Herbert struggling in the postseason. Josh Allen was Superman once again. Later on, by the way, Indiana, again, dominating Oregon in their college football playoff game. But we've got a ton to talk about in today's show. Chime in the comment section on Instagram, YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch, wherever you're watching this show. We appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Monday. So let's get started on a playoff reaction show. But first, you know, as a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans like to say, bye, Eagles, bye. The Philadelphia Eagles season is a wrap. We'll get to the Philadelphia side of it in just a moment. I want to talk about the 49ers. And in particular, I want to talk about a guy that I have said, you can check the tape. Go back to week 2 on this show. That's the coach of the year, Kyle Shanahan. And that's no disrespect to Mike Vrabel or to Ben Johnson, both of which had great weekends, of course. Liam Cohen, who had an excellent season in Jacksonville. Some have considered Sean Payton. There's plenty of names you could throw out there. And Mike McDonald, rather, with the Seattle Seahawks, has done a fantastic job. Plenty of candidates. But if we're talking about the level of elite, making the guys better around you, or underneath you, I guess, because you're the head coach, type of guy, the fact that Kyle Shanahan is an offensive guy in this 49ers offense, this 49ers team, ravaged by injuries. Ricky Pearsall gone. Nick Bosa gone. Fred Warner gone. Trent Williams not totally healthy. Brock Purdy's dealt with injuries. Juwan Jennings in and out of the lineup. As if the injury issues weren't enough, George Kittle blows his Achilles. Prayers for George Kittle, hopefully for him, a speedy recovery. He's one of the best tight ends, one of the best dudes in the NFL. We want to see him out in the field. Sucked to see him go down early in that game yesterday. You're in Philadelphia on the road. By the way, just a week removed from a devastating loss to Seattle in a situation you could have got the 1 seed. Instead, you lose to the Seahawks. Now you got to go to the champ's house. I know this isn't the same Eagles team we've seen, last year. We'll get to them later. Bad weather on the road. Brock Purdy throws not 1, but 2 bad, ugly interceptions. And you find a way to win the game. Why? Because you've got the Juwan Jennings trick play. Why? Because he's able to design schemes for Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey didn't have a huge game. He had over 100 yards from scrimmage. Shocker. It's Christian McCaffrey. But it wasn't one of these crazy breakout 30, 40-yard runs type of situation for McCaffrey. It was 3 yards. Maybe he gets stuffed. Okay, then he breaks off a 7-yard run. Maybe he catches a pass for 11, 12 yards. Like that's the kind of thing we saw yesterday with Kyle Shanahan getting Christian McCaffrey involved. The trick pass from Juwan Jennings. By the way, high school quarterback Juwan Jennings, VFL, go Vols, Juwan Jennings. Okay, this is his second touchdown pass in the postseason. He's done it multiple times in his career. He had his touchdown pass in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Like, Juwan Jennings can sling the rock. Let's make no mistake about it. Kyle Shanahan knows that. But when you think about Kyle Shanahan, when you think about what the 49ers have done in the postseason since he got there, well, they haven't won a Super Bowl. The first postseason the 49ers got in under Kyle Shanahan was Shanahan's third year, 2019. They obviously made the Super Bowl that year. From that point on to now, I would argue, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3, he has been at a clear and obvious quarterback disadvantage in all of those matchups. Let's go and show the list just for context to show what it looks like. So 2019, Jimmy G versus Cousins, Rodgers, and Mahomes. All 3 of them better than Jimmy G. Jimmy G's a backup quarterback, and I've said it for years. 2021, Jimmy G versus Dak, Rodgers, and Stafford. All of those guys are much better than Jimmy G. Then Purdy takes over end of 2022. Purdy versus Geno. Purdy's obviously better. Purdy versus Dak. Dak's obviously better. Purdy versus Hurts. At that time, let's call it about a wash. 2023, Purdy versus Love. Love's better. Purdy versus Goff. Wash. Purdy versus Mahomes. Mahomes better. And then yesterday, listen, you could say, if you want to take Purdy over Hurts, knock yourself out. He threw 2 ugly interceptions and went out of his way to try and lose that game for his team before, to his credit, coming up clutch at the end. And Jalen Hurts is the defending Super Bowl MVP, who I'll defend in a few minutes on the show. So Kyle Shanahan has taken Jimmy G, immobile, noodle arm, injury risk, to multiple conference championship games and a Super Bowl, came within 1 throw to Emmanuel Sanders of winning that Super Bowl. Then he goes to Brock Purdy, who clearly is better than his draft status. I don't want to hang the Mr. Relevant banner over his head for too long. Like that would be unfair of the guy, because he's far and away the best quarterback in the 22 draft, although that's not saying much. He's a legit starter in the NFL. There's no question about that. Never doubted that in this show. But there are limitations in the sense of, man, he makes some bad decisions. He's a gunslinger. Came up clutch late, to his credit. God, those 2 picks to Quinion Mitchell were ugly. I mean, those were, God, what did you even see on those plays? The second one, I'm thinking, oh, Philly's going to win the game. Shanahan's able to overcome that. Shanahan's able to get a roster that is, I think 16 of the Niners opening day starters were gone. You have the Ayuk drama, which we've barely even talked about in this show. The national media barely talked about. It's probably just a story in the Bay Area. Brandon Ayuk basically quit on the team. Let's just keep it a buck. So you have that situation. You have Kittle going in and out of the lineup, and now, unfortunately, a blown Achilles for him. The man had Mac Jones at quarterback for, a third of the season? Mac Jones cast off of the Patriots for good reason. Cast off by the Jaguars. Jaguars even want him to be their backup. They said, we can do better with Nick Mullins backing up Trevor Lawrence. He's damaged goods coming to San Francisco. He's got people fooling and thinking, man, could Mac Jones get another opportunity? No, it's Kyle Shanahan. He got Jimmy G to multiple NFC championship games. He's gotten to a Super Bowl and multiple NFC championship games with Purdy. Mac Jones looked competent for a few weeks this season. This is coaching at its finest. And I think an argument can be made based on what he's working with in that regard. Can you make a case Kyle Shanahan's the best coach in football? I'm not saying he is. I'm saying when discussing the top names, Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Sean Payton, Mike Vrabel, like all of those guys, we're just not going to mention his name at all. This guy, every single time he's gotten the playoffs, the Niners have gotten, worst case scenario, to an NFC championship game. Think about that. Yeah, they've had injury-riddled seasons in 2020 and 2024. It happens. The Niners' injury issues piling up the way they have over the years doesn't seem to be a coincidence. I think we've all talked about that for years. Like that's something they've got to get fixed sooner rather than later. I don't know if it's a training staff issue, a play style issue, whatever it is. Maybe it's just an older roster, whatever the case may be. If the impetus of coaching, James Harrison talked about this with Mike Tomlin when there were calls for Tomlin to be fired. Like, does Mike Tomlin make his guys better, or do they just play to their standard? Kyle Shanahan makes guys better. Robert Saleh, let's not forget Robert Saleh, by the way. The job he's done as the defensive coordinator for this team with one of the youngest defenses in the league, the worst pass rush in the NFL, by the way. It was announced before the game. Aaron Andrews announced before the game. Lane Johnson's out again. It didn't matter. The Niners can't get to the quarterback. They were dead last in sacks this year. All of the personnel limitations of this team. And in the tougher NFC, they're one of the final 4 teams left. I got to be honest, I don't love their chances in Seattle next week. Seattle's off a bye. We just saw that matchup last week, but I can't put anything past this coach. It's unbelievable. Like this is the stuff of legend And if he doesn't win a Super Bowl, honestly, I'll give him a pass. I will. I'm sorry. Look at what he's been asked to work with. On the road, in Philly, no pass rush, no Kittle after the first quarter. Pearsall's gone. Ayuk's been gone all season long. Trent Williams is older. Purdy's dealt with injuries. Fred Warner gone. Bosa gone. Cold weather at Philadelphia after a devastating loss in Seattle to be able to pick the morale up of this team. It's unbelievable. Listen, I like the Niners +6. It was one of my if I were a Betman games this week, but just unbelievable stuff. Kyle Shanahan talking to his squad after the game yesterday in Philadelphia. Then we'll talk about the Eagles.
Hey, guys, as I said every week, man, I can't tell you guys how proud of this team I am. You guys, like, the fact that we had 2 linebackers play that game that weren't on our team a month ago, and not to mention... Garrett, Eric, the fact that you guys were ready for that, and not to mention, I think you guys balled your ass off, man. You guys were all over the place, man. So much love, so much respect. Thank both of you guys, man. Guys, losing George like that, like at the beginning. Is George in here? Love you, dude. Thank you for everything, man. Hey, guys, all we asked for was another shot, dude. I wanted another shot. You guys earned that in the best way possible, man. All right, we got to get home. All right, guys, I can't thank you guys more for allowing us to do this. Enjoy the night. All right, love you guys.
I mean, it's coaching at its highest level. And just watching that game start to finish. And, there's been folks talking about the gap between Shanahan and Sirianni. Like, we knew that was there to begin with. I'll get to Philly in just a moment. It's a coaching masterclass. And I know, much to my chagrin and to others out there, that postseason doesn't count for regular season awards or for season total awards, MVP, Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, all that stuff. I think it should, regardless. If the voting comes out, Vrabel's probably going to win. If it's not Vrabel, it's Ben Johnson. Maybe Liam Cohen has a shot. If the voting comes out and Kyle Shanahan has no first-place votes and the voters just don't know what they're watching, I'm sorry, they don't. It's nothing against Vrabel, who's sensational, top 5 coach in the NFL. Ben Johnson, who's elevating potentially that position. Who knows? Look what the Bears are doing. Liam Cohen did a great job in Jacksonville. Mike McDonald, can't forget about him in Seattle. But this team, after week 1, it's like, oh, God, they lost Purdy. Then they lost Kittle, and then Trent Williams been in and out. And they lost the 2 best players of their defense with Hall of Fame potential in Bosa and Warner. Warner's the quarterback of that defense. Unbelievable stuff. Kudos to Kyle Shanahan. Now, for Philadelphia. So here's the thing. There's a lot to go off of here. Number one takeaway watching that game, because I know a lot of people are going to jump on the Jalen Hurts sucks bandwagon. I get that. Not like he played terribly well yesterday. I mean, we could show his numbers against the 49ers. Not great. 1 touchdown, no picks, 168 passing yards, 57% completion, 79 passer rating, and a QBR 0-100 of 40. He was not very good. But I was thinking about this, and I'm like, God, like the 49ers defense is not that good. The pass rush isn't there. Like, this can't be all Jalen, right? Like, and then I was looking at some things, going through some of the Niners games, Philadelphia's games. I'm like, God, what? Wait a second. Just a month ago, less than a month ago, the 49ers played a road game on Monday Night Football. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Against a 44-year-old, most recently retired quarterback. Or, I guess not that recently retired because he was eligible for the Hall of Fame. Show Phillip Rivers' numbers against the 49ers defense. Not bad. For a 44-year-old off the couch. 2 touchdowns. He did have a pick 6, but 65% completion, 277, 97 rating, 52 QBR, and the freaking Colts scored 27. So is Phillip Rivers better than Jalen Hurts? No, of course not. No one's going to have that take. But Phillip Rivers has something Jalen Hurts used to have, and that's competent coaching. Competent offensive play calling. I'll get to A.J. Brown in a few minutes because he's part of the issue too, but the whole idea of Nick Sirianni being certainly no one's has ever considered him a great coach, a top 10, no way. Him being a good coach. I said this back on my show when they won the Super Bowl back last February. I said, okay, Nick Sirianni is a cut off the Dan Campbell, is chip off the old Dan Campbell block. Motivation, hiring good staffs, players love him, players play hard for him. He's always got the locker room. Well, yesterday when you, not A.J. Brown for all his issues, you are initiating a one-on-one verbal altercation with one A.J. Brown. So much more Big Dom has to step in and separate the two of you. It was you who's supposed to hire great staffs, which you did on the defensive side. Vic Fangio, one of the best, if not the best defensive coordinator in the sport. It wasn't the Eagles' defense that was the problem yesterday. Quinton Mitchell had 2 picks. After that first drive where they gave up the long play to DeMarcus Robinson, they were pretty much flawless the rest of the game. Gave Brock Purdy trouble, mostly kept McCaffrey in check, by and large, by McCaffrey standards. You hired a terrible offensive coordinator, a guy out of, straight from out of the building. That's the same mistake the Lions made and had that work for Detroit. Johnny Morton, he's gone now. Kevin Patullo is almost certainly going to be gone. If your entire modus operandi is, man, guys play hard for me, we're unified as a team, there's no, regardless of the outside noise, it is Philadelphia. It's one of those sports cities where there's always going to be noise, like Boston, LA, New York. That's just how it's going to be. Dallas, Chicago. That's how it is in Philadelphia. We know the fan base is. They're demanding. You get that. We're going to have a unified front, unified locker room. Doesn't seem to be that way when you and your best receiver are getting into it. And by the way, your best receiver, A.J. Brown, does not speak to the media. Again, more on him in just a few minutes. And if you are Nick Sirianni, hiring a coaching staff the way that he has, an offensive coaching staff in particular, could you not be, I don't know, one of the worst offenses in the sport in the second half of games? And everybody saw it, but we called it on this show on Wednesday. We did all 14 playoff strengths and weaknesses. What was it for Philly? The offense, they're a bird. Eagle is a bird. The offense flies away in the second half, and the numbers show it once again. Second half stats this year, folks. They were 26th in points per game, 26th in total yards per game, 20th in point differential, and their fourth quarter stats, they were 30th. The Eagles averaged 5 points per fourth quarter. What is that, folks? That's coaching. That's lack of adjustments. That's the inability to see what's going on, positively or negatively, and make changes along the way, be it in-game or in the locker room at halftime. It's been an Eagles issue all year. That's why Jalen Hurts would have halves against Buffalo or against the Buccaneers where he's not completing a pass or where he has negative passing yards. That's the same quarterback who 3 years ago against the Kansas City Chiefs hung 35 on Kansas City's defense. It was sensational. Some people argue he was better than Mahomes. Wholeheartedly disagree, but he played to that caliber. And then last year in the Super Bowl, he's the best player on the field with no run support with Saquon Barkley. So that guy just stopped being good, right? Listen, Jalen is not a natural thrower of the football like a Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, any of these guys. Burrow, he does not have the arm strength of an Allen, of a Mahomes, of a Caleb Williams. Heck, even today, Aaron Rodgers still can sling it down the field with the best of them. But he moves well. Speaking of moving well, saw this tweet. Dan Orlovsky put it on there this morning. Make sure I can find this. Dan Orlovsky, number of times that Jalen Hurts that the Eagles called design runs for Jalen Hurts, excluding the tush push, by the way. So tush push doesn't count. Last year, 96 called runs for Jalen Hurts. This year, 41, not even half. Dude, that's one of his best superpowers. Freaking use it. And if you're Jalen Hurts, you're thinking, God, we're gonna get another offensive coordinator. This has been the story of my football life. Go ahead and show this graphic. Jalen Hurts, number of offensive coordinators since college, or play college since college, it's a lot. At Alabama, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Brian Dable, Mayan Loxley, and then he transfers to Oklahoma. It's Lincoln Riley. In Philly, it's been Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore, and Kevin Patullo. It's going to be somebody else next year. I mean, Jalen Hurts is going to go in his 12th different play caller in 11 years, going back to his freshman year at Alabama. He's having to learn a new system each and every year, and yet and still, not bad. Not a bad season. 33 total touchdowns, 10 turnovers, 3-to-1 touchdown to turnover ratio. That's pretty good. Mid-60s completion. Could be better, but not terrible. Total yards per game, fine. 227, 98.5 rating, and a 55 QBR. The QBR needs to tick up. Those aren't bad numbers. Jalen had multiple games this year against Dallas, against the first game against Dallas, against Minnesota. Multiple opportunities where he steps up, makes the big throw when Philadelphia needs him to, or makes the big play with his legs. We saw it last year. We saw it against the Kansas City Chiefs in 2 Super Bowls. This man stopped a three-peat. This man stopped America from panicking about Kansas City running the league for years. And now all of a sudden, he's the problem? Now all of a sudden, this being his, excuse me, his 11th different coordinator in 10 years, despite the fact that if Nick Sirianni, if Eagles fans are calling for Sirianni's job, if Nick Sirianni were fired today, do any of the teams looking for a head coach, are they looking to hire him? No, they're looking at John Harbaugh. They're looking at Kevin Stefanski. They're looking at Mike McDaniel. They're looking at some of the top coordinators like a Jesse Minter with the Chargers or like a Joe Brady with the Buffalo Bills. Plenty of good candidates out there. I got my issues with Mike Tomlin. There'll be 5 teams lined up to hire Mike Tomlin if the Steelers move off him if we lose tonight. What does Sirianni do well? If his calling card is culture, if his calling card is motivation, getting guys ready to go in the locker room, pretty piss poor job of that yesterday, to say the very least. And as for A.J. Brown, man, we called it on this show from day one. When Philadelphia gets off to a hot start, undefeated at the gates, first month of the season, Jalen's playing well. Saquon's off to a slow start, but it's shorter off season. Saquon need to get his legs going. I actually thought he was solid last night before he got beat up late. And A.J. Brown, just like he did last season, when things were going well, and he's saying, you know what needs to get better? Our passing game. Brother, you've won 10 straight games. Shut up. Like, what are you talking about? Do you win the Super Bowl? And he's like, yeah, I'd rather put up 150 yards and 10 catches than win a ring. That's what he said on social media after the Super Bowl, days after the Super Bowl win over the Chiefs. And all this season, you're begging, you're whining, you're complaining to the media, you're putting cryptic posts on social media. Nobody will give me the football. Jalen Hurts is ignoring me. What do you want a man to do? Biggest game of the season, A.J. Brown, ladies and gentlemen. He had 3 catches. Jalen Hurts targeted him 10 times. 25 receiving yards, 8 yards a catch, no touchdowns, 2 drops. Let's say 2.5 drops, because the one throw Jalen threw down the field, it was in triple coverage, but he had A.J. Brown. If A.J. Brown, it's similar to a George Pickens play against Detroit with Dak Prescott. If A.J. Brown just runs into it, he probably makes that catch. So you have that play, you have the drop down the right sideline, you have the huge drop that, thankfully for Philly, Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts bailed you out on the next play on 4th down. You cannot be complaining for targets the whole season when your team's trying to go back-to-back, when you're trying to figure out an offense that is an incompetent play caller in Kevin Patullo, that is a quarterback in Jalen Hurts, universally respected as a leader, defending Super Bowl MVP. You're the guy causing havoc in the locker room. Oh, and by the way, as a cherry on top, wouldn't even talk to the media. Chickened out. Dapped up some of his teammates, left. Said it midseason. You can check the tape. Philadelphia doesn't need A.J. Brown. You know who A.J. Brown is at this particular age and stage of his career? Remember Dez Bryant at the end of his time in Dallas? Dez Bryant is prime, 2013, 14. There was an argument he was the best receiver in the league. It was him, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. It was Megatron. And then around 2016, definitely in 2017, I wish I had a podcast back then when I was 12, 13 years old, because I would have talked about it extensively. He was dropping balls. He was whining for the ball and then would drop passes, could not separate because Dez was never that gifted of a route runner. Was bad in some critical spots for Dallas. Dak actually trusted an older Jason Witten, trusted Cole Beasley. Certainly a year after Dez, trusted Amari Cooper, who was a much more precise route runner. A.J. Brown will be productive wherever he goes in 2026. I have no question about that. But it's similar to Dez Bryant. And I would argue even worse. Because at least in Dez's case, man, they never won a Super Bowl. It's not a situation where Dallas won and Dez okay, now I want my targets because hell with winning, going back to back. Screw that. I want to rack up my numbers for a Hall of Fame induction 5 years after I retire. At the expense of the team's success. This is a selfish teammate. This is a bad locker room guy. This is a deterrent for Jalen Hurts. And the Philadelphia Eagles should move on. I thought they should have moved on midseason. I'd say Howie Roseman probably regretting that today. Jalen Hurts talking about the Eagles' struggles in the second half after the loss yesterday.
Joe, and your general thoughts on the offense this season, kind of the up and down nature of it.
Obviously, you want more consistency. And there's a desire to improve steadily throughout the year, but, hard to look at it from a big picture perspective right now. I think just having the opportunity to go make something happen and not doing so for whatever reason, those are the things that we all have to improve from.
I refuse to believe the idea that Jalen Hurts is just not good anymore. I'm not going to buy into that. I'm not going to buy into this notion that a guy who goes from MVP candidate in 2022. By the way, who is his play caller? Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen, who made Daniel Jones briefly look like an MVP candidate. Shane Steichen, who had Phillip Rivers playing decent football at 44 years old, 5 years off retirement. Man's got a grandchild. Looked pretty good. Jalen Hurts had him. He was an MVP candidate. And scored 35 in a Super Bowl. Most points ever scored in a Super Bowl loss in the history of the NFL. And by the way, a couple of years later with Kellen Moore, who y'all know I'm not crazy about. I shouldn't say hung 40 because 7 of those came in a pick six by Cooper DeJean. Hung 30 plus on the Kansas City Chiefs and was a Super Bowl MVP and was the best player on the field. Looked a dynasty dead in the eye and denied them a three-peat in emphatic fashion. And I'm supposed to believe he's not good because Kevin Patullo calls just 4 verts on 4th down in the red zone, mind you, with little space. Like, hey, guys, just run to the end zone. What is this, a Hail Mary with 2 seconds left? Like, bruh. And by the way, Sirianni calling a timeout right before that to where now if Philadelphia doesn't convert, which they didn't, they have no chance of getting the ball back. It's just abysmal coaching on the part of the Philly coaching staff. Kevin Patullo is going to be gone, and he should be. Sirianni's in a hot seat going into 2026. You cannot have a roster that talented, a defense this good, a quarterback this clutch, with these kind of winning intangibles, leadership qualities, and go one and done in the postseason. Can't happen. Can't happen. So I thought Philly would win. I did take San Francisco +6. I thought Philly -6 was an insane line. Niners are too talented. Philly doesn't blow anybody out because of their bad second half offense. I thought Niners +6 was the play. But just just incompetent coaching on the part of the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's transition now, though. Saturday night. Oh, my goodness gracious. I'm going to run a little bit of a victory lap on this one, guys. I'm going to be completely honest. Because as a guy who does not consider, I'm not a scout. I'm not an NFL scout. I'm not a draft expert like the Todd McShays, like the Mel Kipers, like the Daniel Jeremiahs of the world. No, not even in those guys' league. Shoot, I'm not even Mike Guido's league. Shout out to Mike, who's our draft expert here at the Grid Network for NFL and NBA coverage. But I do try and pride myself in getting what limitations I have evaluating quarterback play, getting it right in terms of how I think it'll translate to the NFL. And sometimes I think we overthink it as far as the draft process goes. When you see a guy coming out and it's like, okay, sick arm angles, moves really well. Accuracy, yeah, it does leave some things to be desired. That does need to get better. But he cried with his mom in the stands. I mean, that's just, I can't have that. My franchise quarterback. I don't know what you want to do. And painting nails. That was like the end of the world for some people. How dare he paint his nails? Not a personal choice I'd make, but I don't think it's going to hurt anybody in Chicago's feelings terribly much. I'm talking about Caleb Williams, who quite simply is one of the greatest quarterback talents that's ever played the game of football. I'm talking about a Caleb Williams who, and a Chicago Bears team who have been living dangerously this season. They've been living on the edge, down by 10 in the final minutes of the fourth quarter. The Bears this year are 3-3. The rest of the NFL, 3-159. So is it sustainable for the whole playoffs? Probably not, especially as the competition gets better. Keep in mind, this was 7-seed Green Bay, who we'll get to in a few minutes. But this is a Caleb Williams who, for all his accuracy issues, at times, yeah, he could be a little bit hothead. We saw some of those shots of him on Amazon on the bench. Like, he was pissed. Some of those drives stalled the way that they did, not able to convert on 4th down. I didn't think Ben Johnson called the best game, by the way. I thought he was the 4th down call early in the game in his own territory. I don't know what was going through his head. I think that was a good idea. Regardless, don't we judge quarterbacks by what they do in the fourth quarter? Now, I'm not saying we need to go too far in that direction to where it's, hey, I know Tim Tebow basically can't throw a forward pass for 3 quarters and he just turns it on in the fourth. We don't need to go that far. But this kid, the throws that he can make, sometimes, folks, in any industry, talent is just obvious. Sometimes it just slaps you in the face, where it's, you see somebody on The Voice or America's Got Talent, and within 2 seconds, okay, they're going to be a star. Make sure they get a good record company, a record label. Make sure they get the right people around them, right age and the whole thing, because that person's going to sell a lot of albums. That person's going to win Grammys. That's special. Never seen anything like that before. Kelly Clarkson on The Voice, Carrie Underwood's like, okay, that sounds different. We saw this with Victor Wembanyama in the NBA. Like, okay, a 7'5" guy who can cross dudes up, shoot threes, block 8 shots a game. Yeah, he's probably going to work. The injuries are the concern. Outside of that, he's going to work in the NBA. That's Caleb Williams. I wish we had the rights to show it on the show. We do not, for monetary reasons. The throw on 4th down and 8 at midfield. See, Chicago's coming back in this game. It's 21-3. They make a big-time run. Cut the lead down to, I guess it was 5 at this point. 4th quarter, Jordan Love, Green Bay Packers, boom, 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 touchdown to Matthew Golden. It's like, okay, this game might be over. 4th down and 8, midfield, 5 minutes to go, down 11. You don't convert, game's over. Green Bay's going to bleed the clock out, game's over. And Caleb Williams rolls to his right. This is insane. Falling backwards off platform. Launches it, 35 yards in the air on a perfect throw on the sideline? You can't teach that. Like, you got that or you don't. That is why he was billed as the generational talent that he was coming out of USC. That's why you heard the Patrick Mahomes comparisons for this kid. Like, yeah, could be a little reckless at times, more like reckless than Mahomes, but oddly, with the exception of this game, doesn't really throw interceptions. He did throw a pick early on a 4th down and then later in the game. But in the 4th quarter, Caleb Williams was nothing short of sensational. Show the numbers. 4th quarter, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 195 total yards. We know he can use his legs. A 110 rating, and of course, he led the game-winning drive for the Chicago Bears. If you're a Bears fan, life's good. Life is really good. Because for years, it's kind of similar to my Steelers in some ways, in how the Bears used to operate. You know, we win on our defense. Quarterback, yeah, take it or leave it. We can just kind of slide somebody in there. Mitch Trubisky can go to the playoffs. Justin Fields, can he throw? Not really. It can work, right? Because we got one of the best defenses in the league, and we're going to hire defensive head coach after defensive head coach, and Eberflus, and it's going to work, and you need the difference maker at quarterback. And I'm confident saying today, by the end of next season, Caleb's going to be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the game. To me, the only 2 that I'm like, I have no questions, they're going to be in the top 5 next year. Or I should say 3. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Drake May. After that, wide open. I don't know what Lamar's going to look like with a new head coach. I don't know if Joe Burrow can stay healthy. Justin Herbert can't win a playoff game. Looks bad in all of them. We'll get to him later. Dak, love him. Doesn't have the support around him. Jalen, we'll see. Matt Stafford, he'll be 38 next year. Like, who knows what he'll look like in 2026? This is an all-time generational talent. And the fact that people were just, crestfallen. Man, he cried with his mom in the stands. I can't move past that if I'm a drafted value, if I'm a Chicago Bears fan. Bears fans, by the way, I'm not bashing Bears fans. Bears fans know. Bears fans 15 years ago, their last playoff win, back in 2010, they had a quarterback who wasn't as gifted as Caleb, but pretty gifted. Rocket arm. Jay Cutler was a very talented quarterback. Top 10 most talented quarterbacks in the game at his peak. He didn't give 2 you-know-whats about the game. Like, straight up. We remember the body language. We remember the crappy leadership. We remember the moments where it looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on planet Earth than Soldier Field on a December or January evening. Caleb's a competitor, man. Caleb's clutch. Caleb, he's the Iceman, right? He's got the celebration. He's the Iceman. He's cool, calm, and collected under pressure. And he was special, and this was Caleb Williams talking his talk, rightfully so, after that win against the Packers on Saturday night.
Caleb then mentioned that hearing the noise from the Packers leading up to this beginning. Did you notice that? Is that something you took exception to or motivation from?
Yeah. They wanted us. That's what I heard. They wanted it, and they got it.
Bears fans, get used to running the NFC North for the next 10 to 15 years. Green Bay's well run, but don't we always kind of have concerns about their coach? McCarthy, Matt LaFleur. Love was excellent. We'll get into Green Bay in just a moment. The Lions, are they going to get the coordinators right? Can the defense stop anything? And the Vikings, they can't get the quarterback right. I mean, they can't. And some of their better players, Justin Jefferson, they're not getting any younger. Bears going to run this division for the next decade. They've got the best coach in the division. They've got the best quarterback in the division. They're going to be in the playoffs for some time. Not sure they're going to win a Super Bowl quite yet. They're living a little too close to the edge for my liking. Like, that's not something you could sustain for 4 straight playoff wins. But hey, they've got a home date against the Rams next week at Soldier Field. I'm iffy on who I'm picking in that game. My gut tells me Rams, but the Rams are kind of leaking oil right now. Bears got momentum. Ben Johnson, by the way. Ben Johnson is a brilliant head coach. Great play caller, though I didn't think he called a very good game against Green Bay Saturday night. Regardless, you could tell he's been under Dan Campbell by these post-game speeches. Ben Johnson, after the Chicago Bears heart-stopping win, a second one this year, by the way, against the Green Bay Packers. Ben Johnson, here you go. Hell yeah! Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's, excuse me, Cheesehead Ozzy makes his return to Carving It Up Live, and he does so because Packers fans are down the dumps right now. You went into the season with championship expectations. Heck, before the Micah Parsons trade in late August, early September, whenever it happened, I think it was late August, Green Bay was my pick to win the NFC North. I thought Jordan Love was going to have an excellent year. And by the way, he kind of did. He was pretty consistent, limited the turnovers. Jordan Love was good. I thought the defense would be solid. Excuse me. My gosh. Apologize, folks. I thought the defense would be solid. Then he had one of the 3 best defensive players in the game in Micah Parsons. Now you think you're going to have a huge year. But unfortunately, as we know, Micah Parsons blows his ACL against Denver. It sucks. We know he'll come back in 2026 with something to prove. Jordan Love gets beat up. The receiving core isn't healthy all season long. You obviously lost Tucker Kraft in earlier this season, who was having a career year. And despite all of that, you go into this game against Chicago, the 2 seed and the division champion. You yourself are the 7 seed. And you're favored to win the game. And for the first half, you understood why. Chicago was overly aggressive on 4th down. Even by Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, Dave Canales standards, Chicago was, their defense looked just as bad as we all assumed it would look, as it has over the course of this entire season, particularly the second half of the year. Jordan Love's out there dealing. By the way, can we show Jordan Love's numbers in this game? Because Jordan Love is sensational. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 touchdown passes, no turnovers. Turnovers have always been an issue. Last year, Jordan Love threw 3 picks in that playoff loss to the Eagles. None in this game. 52% completion, not great, but 323 yards, 103.8 rating, and a QBR 0 to 100 of 80. Jordan Love was awesome against the Chicago Bears. He did his part. Matt LaFleur didn't do his. Did you know that after halftime, when the Green Bay Packers went up 21-3, did you know Green Bay ran the ball 8 times the rest of the game? 8 times. It was working for them in this game. For the record, against Chicago in the 2 previous regular season matchups and in this game, they were averaging more than 4 yards a carry. Josh Jacobs was as good this year as he was last year. They were obviously dealing with some offensive line injuries, Zach Tom in particular. But they were getting some leeway running the football. And if nothing else, bro, this team can come back on you. You literally lost them 3 weeks ago on this same situation. Up double digits, and that one was probably even crazier because Chicago had to get an onside kick, which never happens. But that was a situation where you had to rely on the run game to build the lead. Then you abandon it. Then it's nowhere to be found. Caleb Williams has a second half, and in particular, a 4th quarter quarterback. Ben Johnson, and the animosity between he and Matt LaFleur, palpable. Goes back to Ben Johnson's opening presser. They do not like each other. And you tried to out Ben Johnson. You tried to show that, hey, you know what? We know your quarterback's good. Our quarterback's better. We're going to show you that. Jordan Love was great. Over the course of the game, Jordan Love outplayed Caleb Williams. But what's better in the moment? What's better to get the Green Bay Packers to Seattle, to the Pacific Northwest next week for the divisional round? 8 runs. Didn't remind you in some ways of the Atlanta Falcons abandoning the run game with, what was his name? Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman in that Super Bowl against New England. Kyle Shanahan, I love Kyle Shanahan, but just completely abandoning the run. Didn't it feel kind of similar to that? LaFleur was on that coaching staff, for what it's worth. And by the way, we know Green Bay is well run. We know they draft very well on the offensive side of the football and the defensive side of the ball. But even without Micah Parsons, they've got some players on that side. This is the 5th straight year this team's underachieved. Show the graphic. 1 seed in 2021, and they went 1 and done. Now, I put a lot of that on Aaron Rodgers. 2022, 8-9, missed the playoffs with a home loss. 2023, they actually overachieved. They went 9-8, beat the Cowboys, and then, to their credit, pushed the Niners pretty far in that divisional round game before they lost. They did overachieve in 2023, to be fair. Last year, 11-6, 7 seed. Outplayed by Philly. Loved those 3 picks. And then this year, 9-7-1. Multiple confusing losses, multiple head-scratching losses to Carolina, to the Chicago Bears in the second meeting, to the Cleveland Browns. I mean, if they get some of these games, to Philadelphia in a game which they score 7 points at home, if those 4 games flip like Green Bay, where we're sitting here today, they're like the 2 seed. They've got games for the first 2 rounds, at least, at Lambeau Field. Caleb Williams and the Bears have to come to Green Bay, Wisconsin to play those playoff games. Instead, questionable play calling, inconsistency at time at quarterback, real bad special teams. Brandon McManus, that's been an issue all season long. 3 missed kicks in this game, an extra point, 2 field goals. That's going to sink you. It just is. And listen, you could say Micah Parsons, and if Micah Parsons had played this game, does it impact the outcome? Potentially. But at the end of the day, Cheesehead Ozzy is here to tell you guys right now on Carving Up Live. Green Bay, 5th verse, same as the first. You're always waiting for that moment when this team's going to internally collapse, and it almost always falls on the head coach. McCarthy for years. Remember that NFC Championship game against Seattle? Brandon Bostic up 12 with 2 minutes to go, lost that game. And then Matt LaFleur in this spot. By the way, don't forget 2020. 1st and goal, 2nd and goal, 3rd and goal. You don't go for 4th and goal against the Tampa Bay Bucks down 8 with 2 minutes to go. Don't forget that on Matt LaFleur's part. Might be a time for a change in Green Bay. Because, for what it's worth, I know some Packers fans in my life. Shout out to my sister. She's probably watching right now. It's sad days right now in Green Bay, Wisconsin. That's what I know for certain. Hey, Sharon! Anyways, Cheesehead Ozzy in the building. When we come back, Josh Allen, was utterly sensational for the Buffalo Bills against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And for the first time in his career, and this is going to sound like a crazy hot take, I'll explain it on the other side of this break, had the first signature win of his playoff career. More on that, as well as Patriots dominating the LA Chargers defensively. And Justin Herbert, here we go again. Bad playoff quarterback. Rams beating Carolina, Indiana winning their playoff game, and predictions for Steelers versus Texans. That all coming up in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back. Cheesehead Ozzy out, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a jam-packed NFL postseason reaction Monday show. See, I've got a comment from my good buddy and great compatriot, Tim Barner of the Boston Sports Sun. My hair's all messed up from that stupid phone cheese. He says, so the Pats legit now? Let's freaking go. May had a 142 pass rating in the second half, even with a bad left side of the O-line. I'll touch on New England in about 10 minutes or so after their impressive win against the Chargers, and touch on Justin Herbert because, yikes. But I did want to discuss, though, the Buffalo Bills beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, as many of you out there know, I am a massive Trevor Lawrence fan. That's my guy. That is somebody else who I said, coming out of college, generational talent. Well, this season, 38 touchdowns accounted for, only behind Matt Stafford and Josh Allen, third in the NFL. That's pretty good. Led the Jags to a 13-win season. That's pretty good. People talking about the 2 interceptions he threw yesterday. Second one, Jags are out of timeouts. They're trying to force the ball in a tight window. They need to get big chunk plays down the field. That's a desperation throw. I'm not putting that on him. And by the way, are we just going to forget that he threw 3 touchdown passes and was 6 for 7 in the red zone? Are we going to forget the throws to Brian Thomas Jr. and to Parker Washington in these tight red zone windows against the Buffalo Bills? Jags are here to stay. Like, anybody acting like this is a fluke year, Liam Cohen, it's not gonna be a long-term thing in Jacksonville. Get used to seeing that team in the playoffs. They may not win the South every year because we know how good Houston is, but it's gonna be a Houston Texans Jags division for the next few years. Both have excellent coaches, both have talented young QBs, although the Jags, to me, clearly have an advantage at quarterback with Lawrence over CJ Stroud. For Josh Allen, I said coming into this game, and I think the prevailing narrative about Josh coming into these playoffs was no Mahomes, no Burrow, no Lamar Jackson. Like, brother, you've got basically all young quarterbacks in the AFC except for Aaron Rodgers. You better go on a run in the AFC. You better get to a Super Bowl. Because if the excuse has been for years, Josh has great postseason numbers, which he does, by the way. Some of the best postseason numbers in NFL history at the quarterback position. Just keep running the dynasty. Keep running to Kansas City. Well, number one, no quarterback in NFL history has ever been 0-4 against another. Allen is against Mahomes. That's number one. Number two, fair. He gone now. The boogeyman, he's nowhere to be found. He's recovering from an ACL tear. But get well soon, Mahomes. What you going to do? What's the big signature moment of Josh Allen's playoff career? It's that game against Kansas City in 2021, the 13-second game in which he was flawless in. And because his team lost a coin toss, they lost the game. But his other wins against Bo Nix, Lamar Jackson twice, to be fair, but we don't look at that as like, that's the Josh Allen playoff game. Wins against Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson, Phillip Rivers. I mean, like, not special guys that we're talking about here. Trevor Lawrence has the ability to be special. The Jacksonville Jaguars won 13 straight games and had the longest winning streak in the NFL coming into the postseason. They were red hot. Bad pass defense, but the team itself was red hot. You had to go on the road as a 6 seed, and this was what Josh Allen did over the breadth of this game. So this is Josh against the Jaguars in totality. 3 total touchdowns, no picks, 80% completion percentage, 306 total yards, 108.7 passer rating, 87 QBR 0 to 100, which is sensational. Of course, he led the game when he drive on that tush push at the end. A little ironic because the Bills did vote against the tush push. I would agree with them on that, but stop running the tush push yourself. But hey, I'm not the one making the rules. But in particular, when trailing against Jacksonville, that was when he was at his best. 3 touchdowns, no picks, 87.5% completion, 195 total yards, a 133 passer rating. And of course, right there again, you see the game-winning drive. And it wasn't easy for Josh. This was a game you're facing the number one rush defense in the league, who by and large kept James Cook in check. They did. He didn't break off the long 15, 20-yard runs that we're used to seeing from him in the regular season. We know how Jacksonville can stop the run. Got his teeth kicked in the whole game. Head injuries, banged his finger on the helmet of one of his offensive linemen on a throw at the end of the first half. Kind of rolled up his leg a little bit. He had already said, Tracy Wolfson on CBS said, yeah, he told us he already had a foot injury coming in that he's going to have to play through for the playoffs. So you got foot, knee, head, hand. What is this? A guy going to the hospital after a car wreck? I mean, this guy's getting crushed out there. Didn't blink. First game-winning drive in the postseason for Josh Allen. Those are some of the moments I've been waiting to see from him. I'll be honest. when we did playoff weaknesses on Wednesday's show, and some of them have already hit. Philly's a bad second half offense. I don't trust Justin Herbert in the playoffs. Like some of these things, don't necessarily like these teams' weaknesses and flaws in that regard. What was the biggest flaw for the Buffalo Bills? Josh hasn't been terribly clutch in the postseason. The last 2 years, down 3 in the fourth quarter, chance to tie or win the game against Kansas City, came up empty twice. Last year, he got 1 first down on that drive. This year made all the throws. Khalil Shakir, made some plays obviously with his legs. The fourth down tush push where they almost pushed him for a touchdown. Sean McDermott probably should have done what Vrabel did in that game against Kansas City, against Tampa Bay. Take a couple of knees, burn more clock. Jacksonville's out of timeouts. Ended up working out for them because Trevor threw a pick on the first play on the next drive. But this was the moment I've been waiting for Josh. No one's debated or denied the talent. No one's debating or denying probably the best arm in the league. Outside of Lamar Jackson, although this year that wasn't the case, the most mobile quarterback in the National Football League. One of the most physically imposing players at his position, quarterback or non-quarterback, in all of professional football. A guy who I would go so far as to say is probably at this point the consensus best QB in football. To which I've said, can you get to 1 Super Bowl? Because the guy that everyone tells me you're better than, you've never beaten him once. You're 0-4 against him. Well, he's gone now. And by the way, he didn't have a very good season this year. Your opportunity now for Josh, if you're Josh Allen, to take the mantle. Going to Denver next week. A great Broncos defense, but one that we obviously saw Trevor Lawrence cook a few weeks ago. Good pass rush, but the good news is your offensive line and pass pro, one of the best in the league. Deion Dawkins, those guys, Buffalo Bills are great up front. They probably lost Gabe Davis for the season, which is really unfortunate, but you've still got Keon Coleman stepped up and made some plays. Khalil Shakir's a reliable guy. They have not one but 2 good tight ends. Jacksonville ran the football at times against Denver. You got the league leader in rushing in James Cook. I've been waiting for this moment from Josh, and he showed it to me. In a game where he's obviously better than Trevor Lawrence, but he's looking eye-to-eye at another quarterback outside Lamar Jackson, who we know declined significantly in the postseason. He's looking at another quarterback who's been the best quarterback in football since Thanksgiving in Trevor Lawrence. On the road, 13-win team, hottest team in football. Sure, Buffalo was favored. That was part of the reason I took Jacksonville in the points. I was like, God, they're a dog at home is a 13-win team. Like, I know Buffalo's got Josh, but geez. Didn't blink. By the way, before the game-winning touchdown drive, he led the go-ahead touchdown drive before Trevor and the Jags responded again. So, like, this became a fourth-quarter shootout at the end. And he stepped up and made the plays, which he didn't make the last 2 years against Kansas City with his arm and with his legs. So I was, excuse me, folks, extremely impressed by what I saw from Josh Allen. And he's going to have to continue it. Because now your path to the Super Bowl is Bo Nix, a Broncos team that's barely beaten the Jets, the Chiefs with their third-string quarterback. They need an all-time comeback to beat the Giants. They struggle to put away Trey Lance. They can't touch you. You're Josh freaking Allen, for crying out loud. Your wife's out here winning Golden Globes for a movie last year. You're untouchable. Go into Denver and get a win this weekend. And to be frank, I think the Buffalo Bills are going to win this weekend. Defense has played better as of late. They're far better at this point this year than they were at this point a year ago. It's not as much of a hurdle to have to overcome. That was special on the part of Josh. He's got to do it again. He's got to do it at least 2 more times. But that was special. We knew he was the best quarterback entering the playoffs. Like, among the 14 quarterbacks, he was the best guy by a pretty comfortable margin with respect to Drake May and Stafford. But I was waiting for that big clutch moment from Josh Allen. And he gave it to us. Kudos to Josh. This was him talking after the game about the Buffalo Bills win with Tracy Wolfson of CBS.
Thanks a lot, and Josh, you took a beating out there physically today, but you got it done. You put that cape on once again. Take me through that final drive, and especially that 4th down call.
Just trusting everybody on the field. Great win, great team win. All we got to do is play our game, find a way to win a football game. We're on to the next.
That's the mindset. Survive and advance. Every NFL playoff game is a Game 7. Again, we had quite simply the greatest wild card weekend in the history of the NFL. This is the only time that we have had 4 games. Now, again, with the new playoff format, 2020 was the first year of the 14-team playoff format. to where you get 6 wild card games instead of the 4 that we were used to. Still, 4 of the 6, maybe 5 of the 6, depending on what happens tonight in Pittsburgh, went down to the final 2 minutes. Had a lead change, at least one lead change, in the final 2 minutes of the game. That was special by Josh Allen. Uses physicality to his advantage, uses his arm strength to his advantage. Cooked the Jags defense that, yes, the pass defense in Jacksonville, if they're not taking the ball away, isn't very good. But again, Jacksonville, one of, if not the best teams in terms of taking away the football. Josh, at times, has struggled here and there. He's gotten way better in recent years at being a little reckless with the football. He understood, hey, I can't do that. I'm going to take risk. I'm going to be able to make some of these downfield shots to Shakir, to Brandon Cooks. But I also have to be smart, especially given the fact that I'm taking an absolute beating out here. For him to fight through that, that's a warrior performance on the part of Josh Allen, and I'm very, very impressed with what I saw. Got a comment here. I'd say it was a great wild card weekend except for Chargers-Patriots. Yeah, that was the one game that not only wasn't a one-score game, but obviously was didn't come down to the final 2 minutes. Let's talk about that game. Let's start with New England first, because I know a lot of Patriots fans. I could see my guy Tim Barner from the Boston Sports Summit. Please go check out Boston Sports Summit every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, right here on the grid. He said, are the Pats legit now? Let's freaking go. May had a 142 passer rating in the second half, even with the bad left side of the O-line. Again, the injuries up front to New England's O-line were absolutely an issue. But you could see early. You saw it with Caleb Williams in Chicago on Saturday night. Young quarterback, making his first start. There were jitters. I mean, there just were. Like Drake May, we didn't see the same guy who's using his legs very effectively in the first half, but we didn't really see the same guy, the same poise, the same touch. I mean, he had I think, an under 50% completion, in the first half. Like he was off his game big time. Second half, he was sensational. We can show you Drake May, happy face first half, sad face first half, happy face second half. No touchdowns, a pick, 40% completion, only 95 yards. Again, I think he had like 40 or 50 something rushing yards, a 34 pass ring. Drake May was awful in the first half. And some of that's a credit to a great Chargers defense coached by a great DC and Jesse Minter. But still, it's like, God, home, first playoff start, dealt with jitters. Tom Brady, albeit in a blizzard in the Tuck Rule game, didn't play his best in his first playoff game. Second half, Drake May settled in. Touchdown, no picks, 78% completion, 173 yards. As Tim mentioned in that comment, a 142 rating. Despite a beat-up offensive line, despite a Chargers defense which can get to the quarterback pretty effectively. They got a guy on their squad who has like 13 and a half sacks and was a Pro Bowler this year. Like we know what the Chargers bring on that side of the ball. The plays he made with his legs in the first half. It's Drake May. It's a smart play already. Man, I just saw him going. I'm a little, it's playoffs. It feels different. And we're at home. And I'm basically the successor to Brady, the GOAT. And whew. He said, okay, I'm going to use my legs. Drake May, listen, I don't know if it's because he's white. I don't know what it is. Us white boys are pretty athletic too, okay? But Drake May, whatever it was, like he was able to find a way to make an impact in the game. That's what all the great athletes do. We've seen Mahomes do this in the postseason. Like when Mahomes doesn't have a go in his arm, he's been great with his legs. Josh Allen has done this from time to time. Shoot, I remember Tom Brady, scrambling in that Super Bowl 51 comeback against Atlanta. Like we've seen these guys, even pocket guys, use their legs to their advantage. And Drake May has the capability to do that, as we saw. And so I got to admit, man, because as a Steelers fan, if we win tonight, we're going to Foxborough next Sunday. A little nervous for that for a number of reasons, but I got more nervous because I'm like, God, New England had like their C- game offensively. Drake made a bad first half passing the football. They won by double digits. Like now the playoff jitters are gone. Now you got another home game at Gillette Stadium. By the way, you might have a game at Gillette Stadium depending on how the schedule looks, where it's if Denver goes down, for a fact, not only do we get a home game in the AFC Championship game, but we have an opportunity to get revenge on Buffalo, who just came back from 21-0 down on us a few weeks ago. So there'll be that motivation. There'll be that, okay, Vrabel's got another playoff win under his belt. By the way, Vrabel, great coach, hadn't won a playoff game since 2019. So that was big for him too. You had like the busted lip moment with Milton Williams at the end, which was kind of cool. Like Vrabel had a great response to it after the game. Like, hey, we talk about blood, sweat, and tears and all that. Well, it became quite literal on that interaction at the end of the game. Drake was efficient. Drake was confident. Drake was working with a beat-up offensive line against a great Chargers pass rush, a great Chargers defense. It was very much you could tell Josh McDaniels in the second half, it's like, okay, we don't really have it going. The Chargers are playing their A game defensively. Let's just be kind of methodical. There'll be a few big plays here and there. We'll take some shots. But by and large, we're going to kind of play it safe. They didn't really run the ball terribly effectively from time to time. I thought Drake May in this game, by and large, was pretty solid. And this was him after the game talking to Melissa Stark about the Patriots win. If we have that clip, here it is.
With you, because you get the win in your playoff debut in front of this crowd. Can you describe what this experience was like for you?
Yeah, how about that defense, man? Congrats to the defense. What a night. It was so fun to watch. Props to the fans. That was a great environment. I got these big boys behind me. We're missing a couple, but these guys, man, I'm rocking with them at any time, any place. Looking forward to get back at home next week. It was a great win.
And he's a great leader, man. Like, he really, like, again, it's, people were kind of making fun of New England for having like the Oklahoma City Thunder style post-game interview where they've got like 6 guys in the post-game interview. Like, that's, you can tell if you just by watching some of the social media clips, and this is going to sound silly, but I think this matters. And I mostly have said this in reference to Vrabel, but when you see some of these clips of the post-game, we showed you Ben Johnson earlier, Kyle Shanahan, some of these winning locker rooms, not just the winning locker room, but the interactions between teammates prior to that, be it post-game interview, be it on the sidelines, be it, running to the locker room, dapping each other up. Like, there's a good vibe and a good energy about this group. And I think the quarterback's got to set that tone, and Drake May has. Again, very positive, like, gives the ultimate. Drake May might be the worst culprit at this. Like, he is maybe the worst quarterback at the podium in terms of cliches. And that's a compliment, by the way, because whether it's quarterbacks or politicians, like, you're a coach, don't give anything to the media to be a soundbite. Like, these guys have PR training, and Drake May has taken that almost too literally. It's all the cliches. We're on it next week. I'm proud of these guys. Good job of the defense. We get nothing original, which, again, you kind of want that from your franchise guy. That's how Brady was for 20 years in Foxborough. So he's an easy kid to root for. Better legs than people give him credit for. More athletic than people give him credit for. He's got a big arm. He's really accurate. First half didn't show that. It's jitters. Caleb Williams showed the same thing. Like, it happens. Most quarterbacks don't win their first playoff start. Most young quarterbacks certainly do not win their first playoff start. So kudos to Drake May. It was a very, very impressive performance. Got a few comments here before we move to Justin Herbert. One of the major reasons for the success of Wild Card Weekend were the matchups. The matchups were excellent. Niners, Eagles, Bills, Jaguars, Chicago, Green Bay. That's the thing. Like, the styles make fights. And I think we've got some pretty good fights potentially coming in the divisional round. Shout out to my guy, John Rivera, the Fan Perspective Podcast. Good friend of mine. As a Jets fan, I'm sure he's not loving seeing both the Bills and Patriots in the divisional round. It'd be a terrible AFC Championship game because then one of them is guaranteed to make the Super Bowl. But shout out to John, really good dude. Got another comment. Frankly, the New England offense did the minimum with 1 touchdown. Their defense was very good, and in fact, largely won the game and helped the offensive line for LA was weak. The offensive line for LA was weak. That is true. But on the Justin Herbert front, couldn't we have all seen this coming? I mean, this is who he's been his entire career in the biggest spots. And we can show you his playoff numbers. They're about as bad as it gets. He has 2 passing touchdowns. He has 4 interceptions. He has a 54% completion percentage, 65 pass rate. I think in the last 30 years or something crazy, only Andy Dalton is worse, and Andy Dalton never won playoff games, kind of like Herbert. And, of course, right there, the 0-3. But those numbers by themselves do not put into context how bad he was last night and how bad he's been in the playoffs. Listen, we see this in light. I mean, it starts as early in our lives as middle school. It really happens in high school. The leeway and the leash that people will give you when you're a good-looking person is insane. And in sports, the leash people will give you when you're uber talented, which Justin Herbert clearly is. The arm strength is there. He moves well. 6'6". Like, I loved Herbert coming out of Oregon in 2020. I thought he was the best QB in the draft over Burrow and over Tua. Loved him. But there is that intangible factor that matters in these spots. That's what I talked about with Caleb Williams earlier. Like, for all of the inaccuracy and it doesn't look pretty all the time, my gosh, he locks in the fourth quarter. It looks like a different player. Like, this is a guy, heart rate doesn't. I feel like Caleb Williams is more jittery and nervous in the first half. Second half, he's playing free. He's doing his thing. He's making off-platform throws on 4th down. It's the exact opposite with Justin Herbert. Exact opposite. I try not to be a body language expert or anything of that nature, but this is a guy, it's like, the moment looks a little too big for him. And the context, not just of the playoff losses, but of what the last 10 quarters of football have looked like for Justin Herbert. The playoff losses, the first of which, and certain quarterbacks would have never gotten away with this. If this were Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, Allen, certainly. If these guys had been the quarterback of a team that had a 27-0 lead, their defense spotted them 4 picks, and they lost, I feel like I'm the only person in podcasting, television, print, anywhere, social media, that ever brings the fact that game even happened up. It's like the Herbert stands have expunged that from record, as if it never took place. That game in Jacksonville, 2022 wildcard round, Chargers-Jags, never happened. Quarterback of a team up 27-0, lost. 2 years later, they're a road favorite in Houston against a Texans offense that is sputtering coming into this game, that is beat up with injuries, the whole bit. Justin Herbert in that game threw more picks in that game than he had the entire regular season. In that one game. Moment got too big for him. Yesterday in New England. Man, I'm not asking you to necessarily go out there and be, Dan Fouts or something, or Phillip Rivers, some of the 2 greatest Chargers quarterbacks ever, but could you put up more than a field goal? Could Cameron Dicker kick an extra point or 2 in this game? What are we talking about? Your defense held Drake Mann, that explosive Patriots offense, to 16. If you're a Chargers fan, you were told that coming in, we're going to win this game. We're going to Denver next week against a division rival. We like our chances. I could not believe this when I looked it up. In the last 27 drives for the Los Angeles Chargers offense in the playoffs, show what they've done. It's as bad as you can possibly imagine. Punt, field goal, punt, field goal, missed field goal, punt, field goal, punt, interception, punt, turnover on downs, punt, interception, touchdown, interception, punt, turnover on downs, field goal, punt, fumble, turnover on downs. You would think this was a high school quarterback coming into an NFL offense with this. This is a guy in Justin Herbert who I've been lectured for the last few years. If you don't think he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league, you just don't know football. You just don't know. You do not see the arm strength? Yeah, I see the arm strength. The size, 6'6", yeah, loved it out of college in Oregon. And the mobility moves better for size. Yeah, I remember that Rose Bowl against Wisconsin. Watched it back in 2020. Liked what I saw. But there's something about being your best in the biggest moments. And Justin Herbert, in a weird way, not in a weird way, but in just kind of like a funny way, kind of, is who people have said that Dak Prescott or who Lamar Jackson are, neither of which have spotless playoff resumes, said the very least. And I love Dak as much as anybody, but Dak's had some stinkers in the playoffs. They've at least won a game or 2. They've at least had big games in losses. Dak against Aaron Rodgers in 2016, Lamar Jackson, mostly the second half, but against Buffalo last year. They've had moments where even if they lose, they show up. They play big football. Josh Allen's most iconic moment of his playoff career was in a loss because he was amazing in that game against the Chiefs, 4 years ago. Last 10 quarters, I want to let that sit for me. I don't even want to read it. Just look at that graphic if you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, X, or Instagram, or Facebook. LA Chargers offense with Herbert in the last 29 drives. Last 29 drives, 1 touchdown. 1. You can say offensive line, Herbert got beat up. So did Josh Allen yesterday. Did you watch that game in Jacksonville? Josh Allen, head injury, knee injury, hurt his throwing hand, which we know it can be devastating for quarterbacks, depending on, where the Joe Burrow had an injury like that. I remember Drew Brees having injury, Dak like that. There's been guys who have had thumb injuries and been out for a month plus. Not to mention, again, it was reported on CBS, he had a foot injury coming into this game against Jacksonville. One of the best games of his playoff career. Herbert, bad O-line. You know what? I saw Joe Burrow get to a Super Bowl with a bad O-line. Justin Herbert was sacked 6 times. I saw Joe Burrow get sacked 9 times. A playoff record against the Tennessee Titans. And the Bengals won that game. I saw Patrick Mahomes carry a bad Chiefs O-line in 2020, excuse me, and in 2024 to a Super Bowl. Now, they lost both those because their O-line got worked and Mahomes wasn't great in the second one, but he got him there. He got in the promised land. He had moments where it didn't look too big for him in the fourth quarter. Can't say the same thing about Justin Herbert. So until proven otherwise, shout out to Nick Wright. He has a great saying, like there's unallowable opinions in the sense that, which I would kind of rephrase that as, if you want to have credibility, you cannot have this opinion. I've used this example. I'm a lifelong fan of presidential history. If we were arguing about who the best presidents in American history are, you're probably going to bring up Washington. I think Lincoln's the GOAT, and someone will bring up maybe a Jefferson or the Roosevelts or Eisenhower's underrated. I'm a big fan of Harry Truman. There's plenty of guys. Polk's underrated. Plenty of guys you could bring up. If someone said, hey guys, I got a good one. You know who it is? It's Grover Cleveland. He's the greatest president in history. Yeah, get that guy out of the room and let's never involve him in one of these conversations again. In that same way, until proven otherwise, you cannot make a case Justin Herbert's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the game. He's not in my top 10. You can make a case for top 10. He's not mine. You cannot make a case he's top 5. Can't. The man has a 60 passer rating in the playoffs with double the picks as the touchdowns. This guy with the generational arm talent. 6'6", moves well. For years it was Brandon Staley. He's got Jim Harbaugh now. Is he a good coach? The guy who got to 3 straight NFC championship games with Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick as his quarterbacks? The guy who won a national championship at Michigan? Can he coach? Is he pretty good at what he does? The guy who took Stanford from nothing to, holy crap, Andrew Luck and Sherman. That's a good team. They upset USC. I know, listen, good friend of mine, shout out to Drew. Good friend of mine, I worked with him in Florida. Big Chargers fan. He and other Chargers fans were like, God, Greg Roman, look at the numbers of Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert with Greg Roman as the OC. Totally fair. I totally get that. This has been a Justin Herbert problem before Greg Roman got there. This has been an issue before he even stepped foot in Los Angeles. It's always somebody else. It's always the coach. It's always the OC. It's always the offensive line, or it's the defense. I mean, the defense, I think in the last 3 games, last 3 playoff games, have forced something like 6 turnovers, something crazy. In that one game against Jacksonville, they forced 4. Spotted him a 27-0 lead. Couldn't close. So until proven otherwise, I don't want to hear Justin Herbert's name in the same paragraph. I don't want to hear Justin Herbert's name in the same paragraph as Allen, as Mahomes, as Drake May, Matthew Stafford, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. I don't want to hear it. I've seen some of those guys take garbage offensive lines to Super Bowls. Justin Herbert registered a field goal in a game in which his defense played out of their minds. Sorry. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say. When his tackles are back, is his receivers fault next year? We're going to blame them? Because Lamb McConkey got open. Quentin Johnson got open. Throws were there. Game was there. Multiple opportunities in the fourth quarter. And all game long, could cash in the red zone early when his defense gave you a turnover. Story of his career. I'm sorry. Like that's the story of Justin Herbert's career. And this was Justin Herbert, by the way, talking after the game about the fact that he cannot get it together in the playoffs.
Obviously, the emotions are still raw. What is your confidence in yourself that you will be able to get over this hump eventually, get a playoff win, make a playoff run?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, and hasn't happened, so we'll have to reevaluate and see what happens.
Maybe he will figure it out at some point. Peyton Manning had an atrocious playoff resume, and then one year just came together in 2006. Had the 21-3 comeback on Brady and the Patriots, went on to win in the rainstorm, the monsoon in Miami against the Bears. Like, maybe it will come together. But as for right now, the offensive line isn't good. Man, are you going to have the perfect roster going to the playoffs? No, you're not. Weapons are fine. Amari Hampton was back from injury. Jim Harbaugh's a great coach. Jesse Minter's a great DC, and the Chargers defense could not have played better in this game. Drake May was bad in the first half. and you were worse. Your defense spotted you a turnover. Chance to go up 7-0. Zilch. Said it for years on this show. That ain't a guy you want in the biggest spots. There are guys who, I do not think Brock Purdy, y'all know I think about Brock Purdy. I think he's a good starting level quarterback. I do not think he's special. I think he's a product of Kyle Shanahan. Regardless, I'm taking Brock Purdy 10 times out of 10 over Justin Herbert in a big playoff game. Now, obviously the fact that Purdy's been to a Super Bowl and the stats are obviously better than Herbert's. Just about everybody's stats are better than Herbert's in the playoffs, except for Andy Dalton. But Purdy doesn't seem to blink in the postseason. What do you have, like 3-4 game-winning drives in the playoffs? That's something. Herbert can't even get close enough to put himself in position to do that. That's where I'm at. All right, let's transition now. Actually, how about this? Let's go to break. And then we'll talk Rams-Panthers on the other side. Rams-Panthers, we'll do a quick take on Indiana blowing the doors off Oregon, and, of course, predictions for my Pittsburgh Steelers in a really interesting game tonight. Wild card game against the Houston Texans. Talk about that, all of that at the end of today's show in just a minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Thanks to everybody for tuning in on a playoff reaction Monday. Before we move on to Rams, Panthers, Indiana clobbering Oregon, and then predictions for Steelers and Texans tonight, a couple orders of business. Number one, we've been trying to, advertise this as of late. Check out our Carving It Up merch. I'm actually wearing some of it right now. I'm wearing a Carving It Up hoodie. Very, very comfortable. It is just like, especially this time of year, it's getting really cold outside. It's around the country. It's getting chilly. Check out the link right there. Hit that or scan that link right there. Scan the link. Scan the QR code right there. Check out our Carving Up merch. We got hoodies. We got t-shirts. We got hats. We got shorts, pants. We got teddy bears for crying out loud. We got pillows. Any and everything you can possibly imagine to rep Carving Up Live. We've got it right here on this website. If you scan this QR code, we've also got some incredible merch for our other grid, for my other grid teammates, for Boston Sports Summit, All Even Podcast, for Saturday Morning Tailgate, which I'm a part of with Tim and Arthur. We've got EJ Savage, Boys in the Zone, Cowboys Camping, anything you can possibly name here at the Grid Network, we've got it as it pertains to merch. So scan that QR code right there. Check out our merch. Again, we got Carving Up stuff. We got hoodies, t-shirts. We got coffee mugs. Anything you can possibly imagine, we've got that. Second order of business. I'll just leave the QR code out. You can scan that whenever you want before we move on to our next topic. Second thing I was going to say is that tomorrow, because the Steeler and Texan game is on a Monday as opposed to a Sunday, otherwise we obviously would have reacted to it today. Instead of the show, this is big, instead of the show being on Wednesday, we're going to be doing a reaction show tomorrow night. Same time as usual, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. But tomorrow night, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific, Steelers, Texans, reaction show, which could have, there's no telling what's going to go on. Let's put it that way. Because on one hand, I had a bet with my guy, Alfred Parsard Jr., who's a Jets fan and is a big proponent of Aaron Rodgers, who said, and I made a deal with him, if Aaron wins a playoff game, if Aaron breaks, the Mike Tomlin streak of not winning in the playoffs, he gets an apology from me on the very next show. He does. Because I didn't expect this. I didn't expect a guy who hadn't won a playoff game since 2020 to come in and do it in Pittsburgh. If he does it, if he breaks a pretty dubious streak of bad Mike Tomlin playoff football, bad Mike Tomlin defensive football, if he does that, hey, got nothing bad to say about the man. He outdid what I expect him to do. If not, even though Aaron had a pretty good season, no different outcome than Russell Wilson, Mason Rudolph, Pickett, and old Ben Roethlisberger. Like, same result, 9-8, 10-7, barely got in the playoffs, get blown out or lose or whatever the case may be. Either that, or I'm going to be just coming for Tomlin's job in as major of a way as you could possibly imagine, because there are some damning postseason stats for Tomlin that we'll talk about a little bit at the end of this show, but if the Steelers lose, we'll talk about it a lot on tomorrow's show. But first, I did want to talk about the 49ers and the Carolina Panthers. A much better game. This is when he knew we were in for a great weekend. Like, that was the game they put in at 4:30. It's like, the best way to attract the biggest audience is to put this in as the first playoff game because the least amount of people are interested in it. Carolina got in, losing record. They got in via an Atlanta Falcons Week 18 home win over the Saints to get in the postseason. Obviously, the Rams kind of stumbled down the stretch. Stafford was amazing, but the defense really struggled late for the Rams. And once this ended up being like a classic playoff game, like, oh boy, if this was supposed to be like the appetizer, oh, the main course is going to be absolutely delicious. And of course it was. So there's two takeaways for the Rams. Number one, Stafford's just, again, we talk about clutch play with Caleb on one side, Justin Herbert on the other, Josh Allen on the Drake May side, or not Drake May, on the Caleb Williams side. Stafford kind of kicked that off in a major way. So show Matt Stafford in the fourth quarter of this game against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, just magic. 2 pass touchdowns, no picks, 143 through the air, 80% completion, 143 rating, and then you see right there, obviously, the game-winning drive. And again, it's I don't want to say that I'm a body language expert or anything of that sort, but you could just tell watching the game on television. I wasn't in Charlotte. But man, that place is going crazy. Keep pounding. Bryce Young just led the go-ahead drive. Carolina is going to shock the world and win a playoff game. They're going to go play Chicago next week. Who knows what happens? And when there's like we hear people in my generation talk about aura. When 37-year-old, year 17 Matt Stafford jogs out on that field, you could hear the crowds going crazy in Carolina. We're going to win a playoff game. Puka's been dropping passes. The Rams defense is coming apart in the second half of this game. And Stafford jogs out and just watch him like, oh, he's going to go right down the field and score. Like, hand to God, I didn't think twice. There's certain guys, and Stafford's one of the all-time clutch quarterbacks in NFL history. He's somewhere in the top 5, top 10, somewhere in that category in terms of game-winning drives. That's always been his MO. Even going back to his days with the Detroit Lions, he was always one of the more clutch players in those go-ahead fourth-quarter drive type situations. So in a playoff game, the Rams lose the Panthers. Stafford said, I'm not going to let that happen. Puka's been dropping balls. At times, I've missed some passes. Stafford, like a 50% completion. The Rams defense is just absolutely coming apart the way they have for the vast majority of the last month of the season. It looks like a well-operated machine. You're hitting Puka Nacua. You're hitting Devontae Adams. You're going to Trent Ferguson. Like you're going to all of these guys. It is a well-oiled machine for the Los Angeles Rams. And the second takeaway is, as a guy who thought just a few weeks ago, oh yeah, this is the clear favorite to win the NFC. I'm truly undecided about who I'm picking between them and the Bears. I really am, because on one hand, it's like, God, the Rams definitely have the better roster. They have won a road gaming, albeit in Carolina. The Bears have gotten off to slow starts in the first 2.5 quarters of their games, and it's Stafford. And with respect to Caleb, Stafford's won a Super Bowl. He's won a playoff game. And then the other hand, it's, yeah, but can the defense get a stop in the fourth against a red-hot Chicago Bears fourth quarter offense? Because as we noted on the show, this Rams team, one of the worst, defenses in the NFL. They were something like 26th in the National Football League in terms of points allowed. They give up big plays. They're unable to give up the field on third down. So, like, this, part of the reason, again, I Stafford will get my vote for MVP is because he was having to carry a bad second half of the season, or I guess last quarter of the regular season defense. I mean, Bryce Young, despite the pressure at times in the first half from Jared Verse and Byron Young, the two excellent pass rushers, he looked pretty comfortable in the fourth quarter. He really did. He was able to deliver to Coker, who had a huge game, to Ted McMillan. Get it to some of the tight ends, some of the fourth down aggressiveness by Dave Canales all game long. Stuck to it. Bryce Young, 5 feet 9 inches tall, first playoff game at home against a team that's favored by 10 points against you. Didn't seem all that rattled, which is a credit to Bryce Young, but it's also that's because a lot of quarterbacks haven't looked rattled against this Rams team. Bryce Young, all the way back on November 30th, when this Rams cold streak defensively started. when Sam Darnold lit them up in a late fourth quarter and overtime in that big Week 16 game that probably decided the 1 seed. When Kirk Cousins had a nice game against him, Bijan Robinson in particular kind of torched him on the ground and through the air. This Rams defense has been bad the second half of the season, in particular the fourth quarter of the regular season. And so this is something Chris Shula, I think, has done, by and large, a really good job as the defensive coordinator of this team. He's getting some head coaching offers. Listen, McVay guys generally tend to do pretty well. There's been a couple, Raheem Morris didn't necessarily work. Zach Taylor, Bengals fans went out there. Like, it's not batting 1,000, but you've had Kevin O'Connell. Like, you've had guys from the Sean McVay tree pan out quite well in their head coaching gigs. And I could see Chris Shula potentially being a candidate, maybe in Pittsburgh, if they decide to move on from Tomlin. But I don't know if it's a personnel issue. I don't know if it's an execution issue. Whatever the case may be, we have a month straight where, God, this defense is leaking oil. They're having to rely on Stafford to kind of be Superman in the fourth quarter of these games. Now, it can be that. We saw it in Carolina. We saw it in stretches last year against the Bears, the Bears against Philadelphia. Closest time the Eagles came to losing in the playoffs was to these Rams in the snow. Stafford made some big throws to Puka late. I said before the playoffs when I did my playoff weaknesses, the defense is going to be their undoing. The Rams playoff loss is going to be 31-28 or 34-30. It's not going to be 24-17 or something. Stafford's going to do his job, especially against this Bears defense next week. Stafford's going to be great. Nakua's got to catch the football. You dropped a touchdown at the end of the first half. They'll be fine. Devontae Adams came in a little slow at the gates, but make some plays, to move the chains in the second half for the Rams. We know they can run the football with some of these 3 tight end sets, 13 personnel, the whole bit. Sean McVay, we know the play call that he is. There's plenty of reasons to like this Rams team. The defense is not one of them. That will get them beat in the postseason if they don't win the Super Bowl, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so let's shift. It got swept under the carpet because we had the great college football playoff game with Ole Miss and Miami, which we talked about on Friday's show. You had 4 straight just classic NFL wildcard games. And just sandwiched right there in the middle was, Indiana crushed another good team. Smoked Oregon in the Peach Bowl. I think 56-22 was the final score. Fernando Mendoza was one of the stars of the game. Show Fernando Mendoza against Oregon. He had not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, 5 touchdown passes to get Indiana to the national championship game for the first time in program history. 85% completion, only 177 passing yards, mostly because you didn't have to spread the ball or push the ball down the field that much. 8.9 yards per attempt, which is incredible, and a 143.1 passer rating. So Mendoza was great. And again, you cannot emphasize enough what Curt Cignetti has done with the school. I mean, this was Indiana football between 2021 and 2023. 9-27, 3-24 against the Big Ten, 0-10 against top 25 teams, and they average 20 points a game. With Curt Cignetti the last 2 years, they've lost 2 football games total, 26-2. They've won 92% of their games. 19-1 against the Big Ten. They beat Oregon, so that Big Ten record gets better. 5-2 against top 25 teams, which is outstanding. 2 10-win seasons, 2 top 10 finishes, and the Hoosiers are averaging a cool 42 points a game. They're basically dropping 6 touchdowns on the board per outing. And it's, if they end up closing the deal a week from tonight against the Miami Hurricanes, now that's actually be a road game. That kind of feels a little unfair for Indiana, is that Miami's a 10 seed. Now, Miami's had a great run, and they clearly, as they've proven, deserve to be in the playoff. But Indiana's undefeated. They've crushed everybody. Mendoza's the Heisman winner. Cignetti is the best coach in the sport. And their last game in the national championship is basically a road game. I'm sure those Hoosier fans will travel there. This is one of the biggest moments in the history of that school, no question about it. But it's Miami. The Hurricanes fans are going to show up. It's going to be, at best for Indiana, 70-30. And so that would be kind of like a savage way to go out. Like, dang, we don't even get to, because the national championship is usually a neutral site game, as we know. This is a road game as the number 1 team in the country, 15-0, and we're going to come in and kick your teeth in if you're the Indiana Hoosiers facing the Miami Hurricanes. And listen, I think Miami can put up a fight for about a half. That defense is legit. We know that defense is legit, but just the conservative nature of how they call the plays with Carson Beck, understandably so, because he can be erratic. I mean, pick 6 in the first play of the game off Dante Moore. And to Oregon's credit, they went down the field and responded immediately. Carson Beck, he had a game-winning drive to his credit, but he has not shown me consistently the same poise that Dante Moore has shown me this season. this feels like a blowout to kind of cap the season. As far as I'm concerned, this is the best college football team, emphasis on team, that we have seen since Joe Burrow's LSU team in 2019. It's the best one we've seen since then. I don't think it's better because that LSU squad had way more NFL guys than this Indiana team does. But they're almost like LSU in reverse, where it's that LSU team, obviously, remember Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson, and Edwards-Helaire, and they had Randy Moss's son at tight end. They had some of these players, Patrick Queen on defense. Like, they were loaded. Just loaded. All the top 10 teams they beat, and in some cases clobbered all season long. Orgeron wasn't Nick Saban, to say the least. For Indiana, they had, I know Oregon had something like 55 4- or 5-star recruits. I think Indiana something like 4 or 5, something crazy. The roster isn't close to what LSU was in 2019, but the coaching is all world in the case of Curt Cignetti. And I mean, it's become a meme at this point where it's Indiana's up 42 and Curt Cignetti's pissed. Like, he just does not break character on the sidelines. Maybe he will if they win the national championship. Maybe he'll crack a grin or something. But and what's also great about this team too is in some ways, I think it's good for that locker room for the head coach and the quarterback's personalities to be complete polar opposites. Curt Cignetti is this gruff. I mean, people say, oh, he's Nick Saban. Nick Saban could crack up with his players from time to time. And I'm not saying Curt Cignetti doesn't love his players. We know that's the case. The players swear by that guy. But, Saban from time to time, he'd joke around with the media, or Saban was a hard ass. We know that, but he'd slap guys out. Hey, nice play or whatever. Curt Cignetti, again, like, the expression does not change. Doesn't. Even Belichick. Remember that game against the Jets in 2018 where Belichick screwed around with the rules and fooled the Jets and was grinning on the sideline of that Monday night game? Cignetti, nothing. He told Molly McGrath after the game, I'm more concerned about, I'm looking more forward to my next beer than the national championship game. Like, he is an in the moment, next play mentality, if there ever was a type of coach to exude that type of attitude about him. And Fernando Mendoza, exact opposite. Optimistic. His haters say he's corny. Listen, there's a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL who aren't like, don't sound like a president of the United States, for example, like Mahomes. I've been kind of hard on Josh Allen for some of his press conferences and losses. Like, not everybody's going to sound like Dak Prescott. Not everybody's going to sound like Brady for years in New England and Tampa. And Peyton Manning was great at at press conferences. Like Caleb Williams, same thing. Fernando Mendoza, big personality. Like, he's a guy who's optimistic, loves to play the game. Good for him. Like, if Fernando Mendoza was also kind of gruff and all business, doesn't smile, like, it wouldn't work. And I love Jalen Hurts, and I defended him at the start of the show. It wouldn't work if Fernando Mendoza had Jalen Hurts' personality, where it's, stoic, all business-like, doesn't talk that much, and Curt Cignetti, who's, a hard ass, who's never smiles on the sideline, who's always next play. That wouldn't really work. Opposites attract. And we know the quarterback and the coach, the two most important components of a football team, and Indiana's got an A+++ at both. So, I mean, I hope it's a close game, the national championship game. We want the last college game of the year to be a fun one. I don't see it happening. And I've loved Miami the whole playoff. The only game I didn't pick them was against Ohio State. I picked them to be A&M, and I picked them to be Ole Miss. I don't see it. I do not see a scenario in which this team can win unless Indiana completely implodes. And that's something else about the Hoosiers. Like, part of the reason that they've been so good, despite not having quite the rosters of other teams, certainly of Oregon and Ohio State and Texas A&M, they do not beat themselves. I mean, it's a phrase in the NFL. More games are lost than won in the NFL. Like, a lot of times teams will just kick themselves in the leg and, hurt themselves long-term in a game. Like, that's what made the Patriots dynasty great for 20 years. Never flashy, never aesthetically pleasing necessarily. They just kind of waited for other teams to screw up and then pounce. That's how the Chiefs have been the last couple of years of their dynasty. Like, not that explosive. Tyreek Hill gone. Someone makes a mistake. Mahomes, Kelsey, Chiefs, Andy Reid, they pounce. That's kind of what Indiana does. And their DB, Pons, jumps the pass, takes it to the house. Saw it the whole way. That's a well-coached, football team. We know this. Indiana winning this thing kind of feels like a formality. But it's been a weird college football season. Wouldn't it be kind of fitting if Miami won this thing? But kudos to the Hoosiers. That was impressive. Before we get out of here, man, we're live right now. If you're listening to the show on audio, we appreciate that. We're live right now, about 40 minutes away from kickoff between the Houston Texans and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Houston is a favorite of 3 points. So I have to confess something. Because I picked Pittsburgh +3 and to win on Friday. Sticking with that, by the way. I mean, just go ahead and put up the final score. Do we have the final score? Pittsburgh, and yeah, I've got Pittsburgh winning this game close, 24-23. I think DK Metcalf being back in the lineup helps, and this Houston defense has not looked quite as good in recent weeks. I mean, Riley Leonard in his first ever start hung 30 on this team. With that being said, man, my Steelers PTSD, trauma, whatever you want to call it, has kicked in as of late. And despite the fact that Tomlin is undefeated at home on Monday Night Football, despite the fact he's 22-3 overall, despite the fact that the Steelers only give up like 16 points a game at home on Monday Night Football, or not at home, just in general Monday Night Football, there is also an element, there's the fear in me that's like, yeah, but this stat is going to kick in. I mean, I've read this probably 75 times on the show over the last year. Steelers in their last 5 playoff games. 2017, they trailed 21-0 at home to Jacksonville. In 2020, they trailed 28-0 at home to the Browns. 2021, down 35-7 to the Chiefs. 2023, down 21-0 to the Bills. Last year, 2024, down 21-0 to the Baltimore Ravens, who you always play close games with, not in the playoffs. There is, I got to admit, man, and this is part of the reason I have optimism, the optimism I do have about the Steelers winning. A, DK Metcalf's back. B, there's the kind of like weird, I don't know if I buy it fully, but the team of destiny vibes after the miracle win last week with the missed field goal against Baltimore. And thirdly, I got to be honest, man. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has a lot of pressure in this game. He's 42. I mean, like, honestly, unless he throws like, unless he throws like 3 picks. Excuse me, I've had cough all show. 150 yards, is inaccurate, is cussing guys. Barring that, if the Steelers lose and Aaron has a touchdown, 200 yards, doesn't have any picks, just kind of run into a buzzsaw of the Houston Texans defense, I can't bash Aaron the next day. Mike Tomlin better win. That's what you brought Aaron Rodgers in here to do, is to win a weak AFC North, to get a home playoff game, to put yourself in position to advance for the first time since the 2016 season. Thanks to the Chicago Bears playoff win Saturday night, we can now show you an updated graphic of one that we've shown over the last year. Teams that have won a playoff game more recently than the Steelers. The Chiefs have done it 17 times. The Eagles and the Niners have done it 10. The Patriots, Rams, and Bills have won 8 playoff games more recently than the Steelers. The Bucs have won 6. The Bengals have won 5. Jaguars, Saints, Texans, who you play tonight, Packers, Ravens, Titans have won 3 playoff games apiece. Washington has won 2, as has Dallas, Atlanta, Minnesota, and Detroit. And the Browns, Giants, Chargers, Colts, Seahawks, and now the Chicago Bears have won a playoff game more recently than the Steelers. Mike Tomlin is the highest paid defense in football over the last 5 years. Not once have they ranked in the top 10. Do we look at the Houston Texans and say, oh my gosh, now that Texans offense is just, it's terrifying. No, CJ Stroud against playoff teams this year has more picks than touchdowns. And that's the reality of it. He does. The Texans, in their history, which isn't that long, they've only been around since 2002, still have never won a road playoff game in their history. And you mean to tell me they're going to go into Pittsburgh, PA against the 6-time Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers and knock out Pittsburgh to get their first road playoff win? I'm looking at you, Mike Tomlin. You better win tonight, or Steelers fans will and should call for your job. That will be a decade straight without a playoff win. And if you get blown out, if you get blown out for a 6th straight playoff game, man, Days might be numbered as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Baltimore moved off John Harbaugh. Like, loyalty goes out the door when you're underachieving. Steelers better win, I'll say that. And we'll be back tomorrow. That is all the time we have for today's show. Thanks to everybody for stopping by. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. So it's a very ominous way to end the show. But we'll be back tomorrow instead of Wednesday. Wednesday show is being moved to tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, on Twitch, on X, on Instagram, on Facebook, virtually every platform other than TikTok, which we're still working to try and get the show on TikTok. Virtually every platform other than that, we're going to be live reacting to the Pittsburgh Steelers win tomorrow night. Same time as usual. Different day, same time. 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time to react to Steelers Texans, the aftermath, either looking forward to Steelers Patriots or hopefully looking forward to the end of the Mike Tomlin era. We shall see. Let's go Steelers. Here we go. Let's get the W. All right. Hope everybody has a great evening. We're going to see you guys tomorrow. Hope everyone has a great evening. Hope everyone stays safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. And let's freaking go Steelers. Let's finally win a playoff game for crying out loud. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. And be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.